Welcome back. I want to talk about what's possibly the missing link. If you're an order flow, scalping order flow style trader, then something that I discovered a number of months ago, shared with my community, I'm now going to share for the first time to a wider audience a bit. And I think it could be like a missing link for some of you. Now, how you interpret this for your own method will depend on your own method. So when we talk about an order flow scalping style, when we're in and out quite quickly, it's generally accepted that there are kind of two sort of types of market condition. Okay, the market can be in what we call a chop. A chop just means basically there's no real direction, and it's as the name suggests, just chopping around, just up down a little bit at a time, no real direction. And then you have if the market's not chopping, then perhaps it's moving. So chop and move are usually what we would consider to be the two main types of action, if we want to generalize action when we're doing this kind of scalping. So a move obviously is when there's actually a move. It could be higher, it could be lower, but there's actually a clearly defined move. Now, there are different types of moves. The moves could be quick. They could be a grinding style move. It could be a little bit different, okay? But if you're an order flow, scalping order flow style of trader, that's generally how we characterize, and most people will characterize action. Now, I'm not going into the realms of things like absorption and distribution here. They're not necessarily terms that I agree with anyway, but they're not really aimed at scalping style. If you're trading and you believe that there is absorption, distribution type of thing in markets, that's generally played out over a longer period anyway. That's not what I'm talking about here for a scalping style. So what's the missing link? Well, the missing link hit me watching some videos from some of my students, and also bringing it back to one of my other hobbies, pastimes, which is I'm a coach of football, or soccer for those of you in some countries, but football for those of us who come from England. So for the amateur football watchers, or if you understand football, a bit like with the action in trading, you tend to think of a game as being either in possession or out of possession. So my team either has the ball or doesn't have the ball. We are in possession or we are out of possession. And you see a lot of stats around, and you watch games on television. X team had the ball for 60% and the other team for 40%. And for the general sort of amateur recreational football person, that's how the game of football is played. But I coach football at quite a high level. I also have some coaching badges. And when you play or coach football at a higher level, you learn about a third type of situation in games. It's not just about one team in possession, one team out. The third element is what's called in football transition. That's the moment where the ball is transitioning from one team to another. So my team has the ball, it then loses the ball, it is now out of possession. That moment is called transition, and it's a very important part of football, and how we coach transition is really important. The quicker my team can transition into their defensive shape, for example, is going to be crucial. If my team takes 2 minutes to transition to its defensive shape, we're going to be ripped apart by teams. And the same the other way, if we win the ball back from the opposition, we are at that moment transitioning to an attacking formation. Thinking about that, watching videos from my students, which I upload for my community so everybody can watch these videos, it struck me that there is also a transition element in order flow trading, and particularly in the scalping style. Now, as I say, how you respond to that knowledge will depend on the style you use. But with the Norda method, for example, there are specific things that I can tell my students that in those transition elements, you need to be doing X, Y, and Z. And that they're going to be really important. But to recognize that the market's not just in chop and move, there is a transition situation where it's moving from chop to move, or moving from move to a chop. And how you are in those moments, how quickly you can transition from chop to move is going to be very important. As I say, depending on your style, you're going to need to do something in order to make sure that you're transitioning well. I can only advocate and teach my students what it means for the Norda method, which is what we have now. And, I actually introduced a whole new section to the course about transition. And it's something we talk about quite a lot in our monthly meetings. And also now when I do new videos that I upload to the community, I look a lot about how quickly they are in transition. Are they doing the things that a good order method trader needs to do in transition? So it's probably something you haven't heard about before, but rather like in a game of soccer, where it's not just about in possession, out of possession, there's also transition, and transition becomes a really important part of soccer coaching. It's the same in trading. So ask yourself, if you are an order flow trader, how does transition affect me? What do I need to do in order to be the most effective and quickest in that element of transition?